So look, the reason for this is really because it's almost turning into a, well, I mean, I guess we're too close, but it almost seems there's some hysteria going on about the protocol, what it means for Emirates Team New Zealand, what does that mean to the public, and we just want to go through some of that and kind of put it to bed. We'll start with probably the most recent, which is this whole issue of San Francisco. There's absolutely no doubt San Francisco was a great venue last year. It was a really good place. It had good vista. The breeze was good. It's easy to watch. All those iconic landmarks, you know, like the bridge and Alcatraz. And we went through, and I say we because, you know, if we get into Q&A, if you wanted something, I mean, Russell and Kevin are here as well. So obviously from a legal point of view, protocol-wise, Russell can answer that better than me. But we went through the points of why San Francisco appears, and you know, I say appears because, you know, you can never be sure that it's not a wind-up for San Francisco, but why it is off the table. One of the issues that we had in San Francisco last year was the militant unions and the potential of massive cost created by the unions and the stevedores and the longshoremen's union. We didn't get shackled by it, but probably going back when it's all, if the America's Cup was to have gone back, where it's all a bit more known, we would have. And that possibly could have reached into the hundreds of thousands of US dollars. Along with that, my understanding is that they weren't prepared to give ground rental on the piers for the teams for free. And I mean, it seems inconceivable that something as big as the America's Cup coming to town and you are going to have to pay ground rental, which could, you know, on the space that we take, could end up being a huge sum of money as well. So I have a lot of sympathy with the fact that there's probably other places, San Diego, Chicago, for example, that are offering far better terms. And for us, although we are disappointed that San Francisco it appears, on the face of it, off the table, it's not a big deal for us. Either of those two places, and I say those two places as opposed to Bermuda, which is not a preferred venue for us, and I can't imagine would be for anybody, are no problem for us. We're more than happy with either San Diego or Chicago. So that was the sort of point that's been out there, and what effect does that have on us? The answer is none at this stage. The other one, and really some of this was, I guess, cleared up, and as much as I hate to agree, was cleared up about this whole two-boat issue. And on the face of it, two boats versus one boat would appear to be quite a big deal. But you've got to really go through and actually dissect what that means. A lot of this has already been, you know, Dana's written a lot about this, and Richard and everybody, but for those of you who don't sort of understand this, the way it stacks up, and this is quite different than the past, that you have a qualifying event. Let's say there's 6 teams, because I don't think there's any more teams that are going to appear at this stage that are realistic. I mean, there's always talk, there'll be this, there'll be that, there'll be the, you know, Gastrom, there'll be these teams, but realistically you're probably dealing with the teams there'll be right now. So 2 of those teams will not make it to the venue. There'll be a qualifier in some city somewhere. I'll just go back to that a little bit in a second in terms of what that means in terms of announcing venues and it means for us. But Oracle, although sailing in that qualifier, cannot sail their 2 boats until after that's happened. So let's just say, for hypothetically, and wouldn't this be fantastic, if that was Auckland, if that qualifier was February 2017 in Auckland, they couldn't sail 2 boats. But what we can do, and they can do this too, is that we can buddy up with another team. The Australians are the obvious ones at this stage, and we can start 2-boat testing from the period that that qualifier venue is announced after the date of launch of the boat. So that, when you work backwards, assuming that the match is in July or finished by July in 2017, we could buddy up and be testing full noise in a 2-boat campaign as such with, say, for example, the Australians from about September 2016. So that now they can do that tour, but that nullifies a lot of that potential. The other thing, and this has been, you know, said by Oracle as well, is that the dagger boards, which ultimately are going to be very much part of this whole deal, They were last time, they will be this time. Their two boats can only have the same number of dagger boards as us. Big deal. The other thing is that they damage, the way the rule is written at the moment, if they damage their boat one, which they must sail, the first boat launched, in the match, that's it. So in other words, they can't just plough straight into you and go, oh, sorry about your boat, we're going to bring out our boat too. They've got to sail boat one. So on the face of it, it's kind of stacked the deck, I think, public opinion-wise, but it isn't that bad. I mean, these guys are not doing us any favours, huh? I mean, let's not, be realistic about that. It's the America's Cup, but it isn't that bad. The other one that has changed, and some of these things have changed since the rhetoric started about the bias, if you like, of the protocol, is the appointment of the officials. That's been rebalanced so that they don't have control of that as such. In 2000, when the Cup was here, and in 2003, when the Cup was here, there was an arbitration panel. And that's exactly how it will be again this time. And I'm reading here from my notes. The arbitrationist panel of 3 people is selected by the forum of competitors, the defender, and the challenger of record.
Defender and challenger of record appoint the chairman. The
right,
second member is appointed by the competitor forum, and the third is appointed by the 2 guys that are first. Yeah,
so that's more normal about how arbitration panel would be selected, and that is a back off or an alteration or a redefining of the way that was written when it first came out. One of these ones that has been altered, and yes, I understand that it could be read both ways, was this issue around competitors in other events. The way it was originally written, one of the things that wasn't really picked up was that the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, as our challenging club, would have had to, under one interpretation, would have had to ask permission before it could have held any event once it was our challenging club. Now that's been clarified. I mean, obviously that was you would imagine, not intended, and that has also been clarified and fixed. So a lot of these things are slowly but surely kind of percolating out and actually being cured. Nationality, we would have liked to have gone further with that, but it's a start. And if we're to believe what we're told, that everything's sort of still on the table as such, we'd like some of those things, to be back on the table and to be talked about. The class rule came out a few months ago. We included, we went through it, we put changes up. In the end, there's 2 teams that have got a big design team that can look at that, and the guy that did the class rule was with us last time, and those changes have been incorporated at this point. The other thing, so that's kind of the overriding sort of our view of the protocol. And I think really the kind of bite of that is that in 2010, when the last one came out, we had I think Dean had sailed a catamaran at Omaha on his Christmas holidays. We didn't have a design team at that point for catamarans. We had no experience in catamarans. They just won the Cup in a multi-hull with a wing. So we don't see it anything like as stacked in that respect as it was last time, because we had to learn from absolute scratch. We'd never even seen a wing, let alone designed one. I think Kevin Sherbridge went to the C-Class Worlds in Newport. It was the first time any of us had even had any experience of even seeing a wing. So in that respect, we're a mile down the street. We have, the other thing that's quite significant is we're in the best shape ever, certainly in my time here, and maybe ever, with sponsors. We have a situation where, given the right circumstances in terms of venues, we will fund the team. We can go forward. Last time, I think we had a meagre and Emirates, government money, and that was it. When we had to when the board had to start making tough calls about whether we should go forward or not, and we made the call, went forward, and subsequently we were okay. This time we've got all sponsors based on criteria of knowing where it is that would be prepared to go forward. So our immediate problem is to get to that point, because it's been said before, but I just repeat that without all the facts, a sponsor will take the path of least resistance. It's just how it is. And all the facts are not just the venue, they're the qualifying venue as well. Because if you say, well, the venue is such and such, and that comes out in 2 months, we hope beats the time frame of December, but there's no qualifying venue on the back of it, it still doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't fill the whole space, if you like. So we're going to need both of those things. So our challenge is to get from here to that point, and the date on that qualifying venue is mid-February. We've approached the government for funding. The government said to us, go away and line up your money and see how you go. So we have subsequently been away, and a combination of sponsor money and private money gets us to a point that we have now fulfilled, and more than fulfilled, what the government expected us to be able to put in the tin, and it's now back from our point of view on the government to see what they're prepared to do. And that's a call which has a lot to do with our very existence going forward. I've said before, but it still remains the same, that we are funded until the end of June. We have funding that would, from the side that effectively we've been asked to do, that would take us out to the end of February, but we need the government now to come in behind us, and then we can make it. And that's it. What have I missed, boys? Fellas, Warren? What do you got?
I have questions.
Yeah, what do you got?
How vital is the government?
The government funding is absolutely vital. We have got more than we said that we would try and get, and that's been pulled together since Thursday last week, and now the government funding is totally vital to our survival.
When do you need an answer by?
Well, we're gone by the end of the month. So, you know, we're not going to wait till the 30th of June to pull the plug on the place.
Do you have a feeling for how the government feel about funding?
Yeah, yes, I do. I think they're very pro. I think they are, you know, politically watching the mood.
Because of the election?
Yeah, I think the election and just, you know, the rhetoric around the protocol, and you know the way that's playing out in the public domain. But you know, to sort of qualify that again and say, you know, it's a protocol that on the face of it, with the changes, although the entry fee still remains a problem for us, from a cash flow, we can live with it, and we don't see ourselves as a kind of a global picture in fact we see ourselves a lot better off than we did this time last time, where we had no multi-hull experience and hardly any sponsors. So, you know, we're talking to them constantly. I think they're very pro the team, what it does for the country, but it can become self-fulfilling in terms of its negativity if it keeps getting dragged down.
When do you meet them again, Graham?
The discussions are ongoing all the time. It's live. It's very live.
On the two-boat thing, Spittle's now saying that was offered to the challengers. Are you aware of that?
No, we have no knowledge of that. That was a revelation to us. We knew nothing about it.
Would you have taken it?
Well, it's not up to us. It's a challenge of record. Would have needed to ask us, but I'd never heard it before. Sure, would you? No, never heard it.
Would you take it?
Why? Or
would you take it? I mean, the challenge of record might
look
not
at the
have
cost
heard it
implications. We think that I've spoken to Ben. We think his budget is realistic in terms of a start-up team. You know, working out of Europe at £80 million, it's his budget. We think that's a realistic number for him. Certainly not what we can spend. So I think from our point of view, I mean, we don't see any problem or show-stopping problem, not winnable problem by them having the way their two boats are set up under the protocol. Therefore, if we can buddy up with another team heavily, I don't see that we financially would be able to go with it.
So is your problem, your immediate problem, getting the $1 million by August 8, or is it to get to the end of the year?
I think we have to get to a point in space where that we can get the sponsorship on board. Now, there's two things that there's not just the venue that dictates that, or venue and qualifier, that you've got to join them together. Because you come out with a venue and everybody goes yes, you still need the qualifying venue as well, because if it's in the Antarctic, sponsors aren't going to want that. So there's that, but also the fact that sponsors that work the European financial year of December or January 1 to 30 December make their decisions in October, November. They're not going to spend money that they haven't got this year or commit to it. They will commit to long programs based on presentations that are had October, November this year. I mean, in my experience, it's always been that way. So, you know, example, Emirates. I mean, they're heavily, obviously, in the World Cup, Formula One. I mean, they're everywhere. So they'll look, you've got to get through that FIFA World Cup period this year, for example, which is draining like hell on them, to look at next year. So you won't get money that doesn't exist this year. It can't be done, particularly European sponsors, because they work a calendar year.
In terms of the venues on the table, do you have a preference for Chicago over San Diego?
No.
The sponsors are...
We don't understand, well, sorry, a lot of the guys here do understand San Diego because they've lived there, as you have. I haven't lived in either of the places, but I don't have a preference for either of them. No, I think you know what the facilities are on offer is really important.
Do you see a possibility in San Diego for onshore spectators and things like that?
God, I've only been there
You
once.
possibly could, but it's pretty tight. We did the AC45 World Series there 2 years ago, and it was just big enough for those. So you'd be.
And breeze?
We were lucky we had breeze that week. Yeah.
You got to stay inshore.
Yeah.
Have you opened any discussions with Team Australia about buddying up
Yes.
to them? How do they feel about that?
Oh, I think they're pretty keen to look at opportunities long term with us for sure.
Yeah, I mean, our natural partner is them or Prada, and we have a great relationship with the Prada guys, still ongoing. But they did the deal with us last time to get themselves to this point so they could live on their own, and they've got 100 and something people now already, right? They're fully operational in Sardinia. They're in Sardinia, right? Set up, and so they don't. I mean, I don't think they need us. They want to do it down their own 2 feet.
How much involvement, discussion, and that did you have with the Challenger of Record as the process of the protocol was going on? Were they coming to you? Were they bouncing ideas off you or seeking your feedback on anything?
We had some initial discussions in the early days, in the first month or so, but since Christmas it's pretty much dried up, and we've had very little, zero almost input.
Have you had any discussions with Oracle?
No.
Not at all?
No.
No, not one.
So how does Spittle say that he's working with all the teams if you're not talking to him?
Ask him.
Do you have any reaction to Spittle's comments about you? I think it was yesterday.
Well, I thought a bit about it, because of course you guys thought you were coming down here for me to give them a spray. And I guess the only thing, we'd liken it, say, to, I don't know, if the Aussies ever win a Bledisloe Cup match in the near future, that the captain rings up Steve Chu and suggests what he puts on the field, that Steve Hansen puts on the field next weekend. So, yeah, other than that, not really. I mean, it's quite negative for us in terms of the New Zealand public. And yet we have a protocol that, with the amendments as they come through and the team in the shape that it's in, we think we're just fine, other than the entry fee.
Is it a deliberate plan to destabilise you?
In your quiet moments you try and work out the strategy, and that's possible. It's possible, but I just don't know. I mean, there's no doubt we're very strong. We're stronger than we've ever been. We're operational, we're sound, we've got a pretty serious cash flow issue, and we've got a New Zealand public that's incredibly important to us. So possibly.
How do you go? Have you started in talking about that strength and that? Where are you at with your design team in terms of looking ahead to this new boat that needs to be built, and what do you have to do with that? With it just being one boat, you have to get it right first time.
Yeah, well, one of the keys to in our opinion, of the next Cup is the surrogates. And so the rebalancing of the financial deck is not with the big boat itself, it's actually with the surrogates. The surrogates can be 45 feet long, so they'll start life as 45-foot hulls. And then they become 2 operational, raceable boats with, you know, full wings, etc. And it's a very, very heavy financial price, and it's quite early on in the program. I mean, in the perfect world, you'd probably be starting those now. And that brings more sailors in, of course, too, because you've got 2 full-on. If you want to race them as well as test with them, you're going to need more people. You also have to up front with, I think last time we had the 33s that kind of happened in about a year from now, and we didn't need many people, and we only had 1, and then 2 came on. They're pretty simple, very basic boats. But these will be highly efficient foiling test platforms that will ultimately scale to our 62-footer. So they're really expensive, and they're very labour intensive, and I can't actually remember the question, but you know, we see quite a heavy upfront on the campaign this time, with more, you know, the need to probably create more yachtsmen, certainly quite a lot more shore crew early.
How much conservative Oracle do know that they just get to choose, and that they can be designing it all that venue now?
I think the 62 footers so far away, and remember that if you look in the time scale of last time, we didn't get a venue until December this year. So we actually didn't know we were in multi-hulls until October this year in the same time scale. So that's, to us, is not an issue at all.
Would sailing a 62, say, in the qualifying series in Sydney,
Change the boat?
is that going to be radically different to sailing it in San Diego or Chicago, do you think, in terms of how you approach design and things?
It'll probably change the boards, the stability. I mean, crikey, I'm not a designer, but I think your boards will change. You know, could be slightly different based on the stability created through the boards. It might change the volume in the boat. Remember, you're allowed to alter 20% of the hull surface of the boat, so you could up the volume if you wanted. If, say, you had a light air qualifying and then you're going to a breezy venue after that. So yeah, it could. The profile of the wing is fixed under the rule. Won't change that. Structural wise, it won't change that. So there could be alterations that you would be ready for, and you'd have them in the basically you'd have them in the container.
So reading the protocol and going through it in fine detail as your management team have, as you stand here now, you don't have the money to do it, but you want to do it. The protocol hasn't scared you away from attempting to challenge for the next.
So when we look at where we came from last time, just take the protocol out of the mix and bring it back in. We hadn't done a multi-hull, we didn't know anything about wings, and we never even sailed multi-hull, so we're starting from scratch. Dean went to the an X40 regatta in Alameda in Spain late this year in the same time scale and came last. So we took everything from that base. So the project doesn't worry us at all. Because we've got guys that are already, we'll be able to fine-tune our design team now, pick the nuggets. Some things that aren't really known is like Neil Wilkinson that was in charge of the foiling system for Oracle now works back here. Good white Takari boy. So he's back here. Out of Artemis, we've brought one of their main programmers who, because we want to up our testing ability to analyse our testing. So we're able to sort of take lessons and replace and enhance the people that we've got to get a better fine-tuned design team. So the design envelope doesn't worry us at all. We've still got Dean and we've got Burling. And we've got to fine-tune our sailing team as well. Protocol-wise, the alterations that are coming through in the protocol are good, and they're now rebalancing the deck. Some of the rhetoric that's come out about 2 boat versus 1 boat is just not right. So there's nothing particularly at this point in the protocol which scares us off.
So after 92 hours with all those multiple changes to the protocol, does that indicate one, sloppy drafting, and do you expect more changes?
Oh, I think there'll definitely be more changes. Sloppy drafting, what you're basically saying is that sloppy drafting, or was it an attempt to get stuff through and then backing off from that, really? Mm-hmm. Not sure the answer to that, but certainly the drafting has been tightened a lot. And some of it is more than just draft tightening, it is change around the outcry on voting rights, for example.
You said last week that the Team New Zealand doesn't go this time. That's the end. What's to be lost?
Well, I grew up, and the first memory I have is of Clive Roberts and Chris Bazade. And PJ was there. Heligoland, 1969, Rainbow 2. It started there for me, for my generation. And it's grown through Laurie Davidson, Bruce Farr, Peter Blake. I mean, all that history brings us to this point. This viaduct brings us to that point. If we go, it goes, and it ain't coming back. And yeah, I mean, you guys, sort of PJ and you guys and yourself in the sport know that the start-up price of a team from scratch, even if you can do it, is so astronomical that it will not happen in this country.
With coming back to the 2 votes, I mean, surely if you don't have a second vote, the risk is that you do a face plant in your first and you're out of the series.
Well, I talk about the Cup in that respect.
Well, even in the qualifiers.
Yeah, you are. You have to fix it at that point. We were one of the things that was very heavily on our minds during the Cup last time is we actually didn't have 2 boats. We had one sitting there, but I mean, from being around, it was in no condition or even close to being able to go sailing. If we had tipped the boat over on that race day, that was it. We couldn't have turned the other boat around. We didn't have the financial resource to actually turn the other boat around because we'd basically pilfered it to get boat 2 on the water. So the circumstance is slightly different in that we, given time, if that had happened earlier, we could have brought the other boat back on. But if you do face plant it, yeah, we'd be in trouble. We'd be in trouble for sure. We're in no different position than the other challengers in that respect, though.
This is going to be a much more competitive America's Cup than the last one, right? Isn't it?
It is.
With Artemis and Prada to start with.
And the Chinese, Oracle Chinese, and also Ben. Yeah, for sure it will be. Yeah, you won't waltz through the rounds.
I've already said to the people who say it's too hard, we should get out of this cup, we should invent our own cup, but it's not worth going for again.
Well, inventing your own cup won't work. This is the America's Cup. This is the oldest sporting trophy in the world. This happened before the Civil War. Peter Montgomery was there. Yeah, I mean, you can't replace the America's Cup. You can't. And you can try, and you see other sports that break away, IndyCar and all those things. They have breakaways all the time, the rebel leagues, but they never, I'm trying to think of one that's ever survived, unless someone is funding them. A1 Grand Prix. How many hundreds of millions did that lose? It never lasts. This is the America's Cup. This has got history. This country has stooped in America's Cup since we all sat on our black and white TVs, and when I was colour then in 1983 and watched Australia 2 beat Liberty in Newport. Christ, I watched it. You cannot replace it.
This cup's been labelled the commercial cup. Do you think Keats is going too far?
Well, I think we need to see the commercial deal yet. In the end, for us, the criteria of being commercial is that we have to have a platform to display our sponsors. We have to be able to entertain our sponsors, and we have to get them, give them mileage through internet and TV. Those are really the criteria. And they've got to believe the story that New Zealand could win the America's Cup. The rest of it is all just around the edges. Getting their brand, getting the photos, getting it on the net, getting it on TV. We don't sell much, and being able to come to the venue and watch and be able to get out on the water, we don't sell any more than that. That's the essence of what we can sell. There isn't. I don't know what else you can sell, really.
So looking at the protocol, having looked at it for a week or so, you think that the America's Cup is still winnable as a challenger?
It's no less winnable than it was last time.
There's got to be more so this time because the defenders started off last time with such a huge challenge.
Well, I think that's a fair point. I mean, that's why I say I guess it's no less, but we feel more strongly that we're financially in a better position long term. I'm talking after February, and that we've got a great design team. But then they were starting without having, they had wings and cats, but there was a whole bunch of other things that had to be sorted out as well. So, yeah, probably you're right. Yeah, it's probably more winnable than last time. I think we've got a much harder road through this time in terms of the challenges. In fact, no doubt of that. But no different than 2007 when we got through, cleaned up Prada in the final of Louis Vuitton 5-0.
Are you happy with the defender choosing the selection at the qualifier venue for the challenges?
What's the rule in that?
Yeah, they have.
We hope that New Zealand or Auckland put in a good shot at that. That would be fantastic. That'd be great if it came here. That'd be great.
Is that anything that you've mentioned with the government in terms of trying to...
I mean, they know that. I mean, one of the things we've found is Minister Joyce and the Prime Minister are well versed in this. This is not some blindsided secret that they don't know about. They're well versed in what what the protocol says, what it means, what the mood of the country is, and the fact that there's not only an AC45 ability, but also a qualifying venue for all the teams' ability. You wouldn't have to start adding up the numbers pretty quickly to make that turn into quite a successful windfall.
What sort of expense would there be in hosting that?
I've got absolutely no idea.
But would that fall on, who would that fall to?
Well, not us. I mean, I don't know. No, I just don't know. We've got a very, a new and quite active sponsor in New Zealand, which probably would be interested in that.
Are you concerned at the extent that the defender determines the qualifying format and series and venue and the amount of racing they do with the challenges?
No, it is the way it is. It's two-way, isn't it? I mean, the format set's a double round robin. So it'll be match racing, and I think, in the past, defenders never changed, sailed in the Challenger series, and it's something that was objected to by Oracle strongly in the Olingi court case, as you'll remember.
Yeah.
It is the way it is. They get to check in with us, we also get to check in with them. We had no idea.
They could win their first match point by winning the qualifying series.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah, they could.
We want to buddy up with the Australians and start to nullify that. I think the fastest boat will win the next America's Cup. It always does.
Yeah.
It's kind of, when you boil all this down, you got this and you got that, the fastest boat will win the next America's Cup, as it always does. That's the challenge for us.
If you don't get through the qualifying series, can Team New Zealand survive that?
We've got to survive we've got to survive this year first. No idea. I can't. That's too far away.
So in terms of your planning, I mean, what are you intending to do with Peter Burling and Blair Cherokee running?
Well, they're basically Pete and Blair and Glenn and Giro and Ray are doing Russia. St. Petersburg starts in 2 weeks. That's his next X40. Had a great first X40. Oh, wow, that was a good hit out, first time up. So he's mixing with Dean. Dean leaves on Tuesday along with Glenn Ashby and Chris Nicholson to the European A-Class Championship. They've been out here. Ray and Dean have been out here pretty much every day in the A-Class training. I think and obviously Dean is involved in any of this decision-making process. One of the things we can't do is get to the point of putting the 62 in the water and not knowing what we're doing, because you'll end up with two guys that can't drive fast enough, So as an organisation, we'll make decisions before then. We've looked at putting 2 45s on the circuit, one with Dean, or mixed basically, one with Pete and one with Dean, and then sort of mix the crews as such. It's not like an old crew and a young crew. But it's going to be quite difficult because of Pete's and Blair's commitment to the Olympics. So I think we'll end up with one, which is mix and match, depending on when he's available, really, to bring him through. But there's immense talent and great guy. They both are. All those young guys are. I mean, it's heartwarming when you get to my age to see that there is a future. with these guys coming through. They are immensely talented. And he's working at it. He ain't stepping aside, that's for sure. They're going to have to take it off him.
So what's the process for that? Are you going to select a designated skipper before the AC62 goes in the water?
Yeah, I think we'll have to. Like, we haven't honestly. What I can tell you is one of the changes we've implemented here is we've got a wider executive group of guys. You know, Ashby, Dan Berlusconi, Nick, Kevin, Russell, Dino. Who have I missed off that list? Nobody, I don't think. And you know, and we'll kind of shoot the breeze. You know, we were doing that to a point last time, but not as expansive as this. And we stopped doing it when we got to San Francisco because we went to a very process-focused environment where, you know, we wanted to do the same thing every day. You know, sport's about doing exactly the same thing every day perfectly. And probably didn't adapt enough, or not probably, we didn't adapt enough around it. So we're going to expand that. And that group will decide this sort of thing.
How's the relationship with the new board working? Good?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, good guys. I mean, the thing is, everybody's there. They're there for the right reasons. I mean, you've got Stephen, who's been, you know, a great supporter of the team forever. Bob, great supporter of the team, and they're great strategic thinkers. Chairman Keith is a engineer, so he's completely into that part of it. Tina, good political strategist in PR, and you know, invaluable to Warren and me, and just advising us of what she thinks. And Greg Horton, who's, you know, a new thing in terms of one of the legal minds around town. So it's a good balance, and it's working. We spend a lot of time together, because we have a meeting every week at the moment. Meeting again on Monday. This is a really critical time. I mean, they're in a governance role ultimately, that, you know, as opposed to a management role going forward. We've got to get on and, you know, run the thing. But at this stage, it's a very critical period for the team.
Just bring it back to the government funding.
Yep.
I mean, it's been in the media a lot now. We don't want, you know,
How do you sort of put your case when people are saying, oh, it's a gift, that government shouldn't be handing money to you?
Well, the first criteria we've been asked by the government is to go out and get sponsorship and backing. We've done that. In fact, we've done more than they anticipated we were going to do. So it's back on, effectively. You know, we've gone back now and said we have met the criteria that you set for us. And there were certain other criteria leading up around reviews and governance, all done. It's not, one of the misconceptions is it's sports vote. It is not affecting darts, badminton, or table tennis. It is out of basically development funding, which will get spent. So we're a different. I know that doesn't answer the question of it's still money, because there's still one giant pot. But we are part of a development vote, which would not normally be available, or would not be available to normal sport. So it is seen, and the review that was done showed, you know, the economic benefit to the country, and that is what they're focused on. What's the economic benefit of the government or the taxpayer being involved with Emirates Team New Zealand? It's not an emotional decision for the New Zealand government.
So are you solely reliant on government funding getting you through to February, or do you have that sort of private?
No, not at all. We went to the government with a plan. Part of that plan, and was part of what they wanted us to do, which we've achieved, because we had to start and then put the plan in place, put the action in place, was to find significant sponsor and investment, which we've done. And so now we're waiting on their answer for their part.
But you're saying you would need their money to survive from the end of June through till the end of the year?
To the end of February, yes. In combination with the other significant amount of money we've found since Thursday last week.
So how are you planning to meet with the entry fee? Have you already answered that?
Well, we need these two things to come together. The government money and the other money that we've raised. When you put those two together, we meet the entry fee plus the operational costs of the organisation to go forward till the end of February. Why pick the end of February? Two reasons. One, venue and qualifier are known, and two, it sits about right, it's a call, with the ability to fund the team commercially with budgets coming on stream for the start of that financial year.
Late last week you were talking about cutting a deal with a bank on sponsorship. Has that gone any further?
Yep, it's gone further.
Can you elaborate?
No. But yeah, I mean, it's gone further for sure. Okay? Everybody happy?